another edition of the new ND Nation Radio.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them and outside them. And when we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run.
As number one goes down, Syracuse undefeated no more.
This is now top-notch college hockey.
Everything here at Notre Dame has been done on faith and a commitment to excellence. You are Notre Dame. You are special.
You were to impart some wisdom or some tips on the guys coming in.
I would probably say stay on top of your academics.
Walk out, he broke free at the 30, 35, 40. The Rocket is going to do it again.
And you're also going to walk out of here with a degree from the University of Notre Dame. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
You know, just play like a champion sign. Rocket Ishmael's touched many times. Jerome Bettis has touched many times. You know, the best stadium you play in, I'm going to say Notre Dame.
We're going to get them on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. And we aren't going to stop until we go to that goal line. Don't forget, man, today, we're going to win.
Welcome Mike Lee to the show. Mike, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. If Mike will have my coach Jason start the interview, and I'll be able to close out with you. There's quite a few of us here. So, Jason, are you ready, man?
Mike, how are you tonight?
Good, good.
Hey, you know, you've got something in common with Mike Tyson and Ronnie Shields, your trainer. That you moved out to Texas to train with Ronnie. What brought you guys together?
Initially, what brought us together is, you know, I got signed by Top Rank out of the amateurs, and I was training all over the country, and at the time, I was going to train out in Las Vegas with Kenny Adams, and a few things kind of fell through, and I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and I was going to sign with a certain manager and get camp going. I was actually on my way to the airport, ready to move out and live in Vegas and start my pro career there, and everything kind of fell through, and I got a phone call on the way there, and while at the time I was a little bit, you know, devastated, it landed me on Ronnie Shields, and obviously I knew of him and his pedigree and all that. I'd never met Ronnie before, so, you know, I was on the phone with him literally a day later, and I said, listen, Ronnie, you know, I want to come down and try out for you and I want you to see what I got, and sure enough, the next day I came down to Houston, Texas, and we just really clicked.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen some of your fights, and I've gone back over the past week and looked at, you know, some stuff on YouTube and looked up some clips of there. And I'm a big fan of boxing. I always have been growing up. My dad was a huge boxing fan, and you know, I grew up. You know, I remember, you know, Sugar Ray and Hagler and those guys fighting, and then obviously Mike Tyson. I was a huge fan of Tyson. And I was, you know, in watching some of your fights, I noticed, like in your second match versus Alex Rivera, middle of the first round, you really started to dig in with body shots, and you finished him with a hard left hook to the body is what it looked like. How important is it in your style of boxing to really get in there and work the body shots?
It's really important, and that was a big transition that I wanted to make from going to amateurs to the pros, was working to the body, and that was one thing that we worked on when I came down here to Houston, this camp. There's something that we call the body bag that up until my pro debut we were working on every day, and Ronnie really stressed, you know, he knew I was a puncher and I was heavy-handed, so, you know, I guess the saying is when you kill the body, the head will fall, so we really adopted that philosophy, and I've really become a great body puncher. And I think, you know, now as I start to fight 6 rounds and 8 rounds, and as my career progresses, really, you know, hitting those body shots in the early rounds, they really pay dividends later on in the fight. So, you know, that's something that, like I said, Ronnie was a big proponent of, and that's something that I think people will continue to see in my career is, I'm not just headhunting. I'm also trying to be tactical and go to the body as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I would consider you a power puncher, and I think that's something that Ronnie has really worked with. I mean, he's got, Mike Tyson, Vernon Forrest, Pernell Whitaker, and yourself that he's trained with, and those guys are known as, they can really get in there and do some damage. And I was watching in your third fight versus Debo and your fourth fight versus Gomez, you pretty quickly dispatched those guys in the first round. Debo, he got hit with a nasty left-right combo, and then Gomez with a really, really well-placed, looked like a counter shot right hand. But one thing I noticed is you seem to have really fast hand speed, but you've still got that, that good power. How do you, what do you do to maintain both of those with having the quick hands but also able to deliver that heavy power that can really knock a guy out?
Yeah, I think that's important, and increasing my hand speed was another thing we really wanted to work on. And, I guess I give my credit to my strength coach, Brian Caldwell. We do a lot of, fast muscle twitch workouts and things that increase my hand speed with the cords. And there's one machine that we use called the Vertimax, which is in a lot of NFL and MLB locker rooms. And that's really helped my hand speed. But the thing about this sport that people don't realize is, speed kills. And a lot of times, I know from experience, the shots that hurt the most are the ones you can't see. And so, if I see a big, strong guy loading up with a punch and I see it coming, even if I have half a second to react to it, I can react pretty favorably. But if I don't see a shot coming, even if it's not a power shot, that hurts a lot more. So that's definitely something I think that I'm trying to continue to get better at is, my hand speed, because I feel like the power is there. And just trying to get better every fight. I feel like this last fight was my best fight yet, and that's really what Ronnie said. And so I couldn't be happier. I actually look back at some of those early fights, my second and third fight, and sometimes I cringe. I'm hard on myself, but I feel like if I fought myself in those fights now, I'd knock myself out. I really believe that.
Yeah, and you talk about having the fast hands. I was a big, or still am, although he's not boxing anymore, Roy Jones Jr., who, in my opinion, had some of the fastest hands. I remember a fight where he had both his hands behind his back, bounced against the ropes, and he unleashed and fired a right hand and knocked this kid clean out. And it was just one of those things where, wow, and you're right, when you don't see one coming, those are the ones that are going to get you. How are you? What do you think are you working on now? I mean, what are you training for? What are you trying to develop now in your in your repertoire?
Well, we're at this point in my career right now where I think we're working on a lot of defense and a lot of counter punching. I think once you start to get at an elite level, and I'm going to be fighting. Every guy I'm fighting now is better in a different style, and once you get to that elite level, I think counter punching is really what will separate guys. You look at guys like Floyd Mayweather, and, a lot of people consider him pound for pound the best in the world, and he's got to be the best counterpuncher in the world, in my opinion, and it's really a mental game. So I think that's something we're working on, and Ronnie, like you said, has trained some great, slick fighters, and he was a great fighter himself, but guys like Pernell Whitaker, and, there's a lot of tape that we watched that I try to incorporate some of that counterpunching and some of that smoothness and swagger, so to speak, into my style. So I really think these next few fights, people are going to start seeing that. I'm going to be a lot looser in there and just a lot more fluid.
When you were coming up and just in the amateurs and everything else, I'm sure that, like all of us, whatever sport as a kid we grew up watching or, were infatuated with, we had that one player, or for you, that one boxer who we wanted to emulate. Who was that for you, and are you actually, have you molded yourself into that style, or has your style changed away from what you would have wanted to be, when you were first starting out, as if you were to follow in the footsteps of, your favorite boxer?
I had a few favorite fighters coming up. I mean, obviously, Roy Jones Jr. was one of those guys that, like you said, you just watched him in the ring and you'd be in awe. I really believe that he was pound for pound, one of the best fighters who ever lived. He could be in that top 10, top 15 list, whatever you want to say. But some of the guys I really looked up to were Kelly Pavlik, and right before I turned pro, I got to go out with Kelly a couple times and train with him while he was getting ready for I think he was fighting Marco Antonio Rubio, and I got to get in the ring and with Kelly and other pros and amateurs they had in that camp, and that was a big moment for me because I always looked up to Kelly, and here I am in the ring with Kelly, and afterwards he's telling me what I need to do better and how I can do this and that. But honestly, one of the biggest treats for me, my last fight was on the Miguel Cotto Antonio Margarito rematch undercard in the Garden, and I've always loved Miguel Cotto. There's just something about his style. Right when he came up, all the way through, even when Top Rank signed him right out of the amateurs off that Puerto Rican Olympic team, I just loved his style, A, and B, I loved his demeanor. I love the way he does business. He never talks trash outside the ring. He's a serious, stern person, and he comes there to hurt you and do his business, and then when he's done, he shakes your hand and walks away, and that's really what I'm trying to do in this sport. I'm trying to do it with class, and I'm trying to do all my talking in the ring, and I think that's something Miguel Cotto has always done, so I like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, growing up and seeing films of, highlights of Muhammad Ali and the things he did outside of the ring, and a lot of guys do that, and I think it's good for the sport to have that, the class act, the guys who can, they come out and they're there to do business in the ring, and speaking of class act, I know you're involved in a lot of different charities, but you're a 3-time Bengal Bouts champ. A lot of people have heard of it, but they don't really know what it is and what it benefits. Enlighten us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the Bengal Bouts is an incredible program, and basically it's a boxing tournament held at Notre Dame, set up similar style to the Golden Gloves, where it's a tournament style where you have weight brackets, all amateur fights, and the entire tournament culminates to a championship night where they put the ring in the middle of the Joyce Center where the basketball team plays. And, my years when I was there, I think we had anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 people. We had huge crowds, everybody from students to teachers to people living in South Bend area. But the main purpose of Bengal Bouts was all the proceeds were donated to the Holy Cross Missions of Bangladesh. And so, I became a huge part of that program and actually had the opportunity through Bengal Bouts to go to Bangladesh my junior year of college and spend some time over there checking out the schools and checking out where the money went and how much good it was doing. And it was really a pretty incredible experience for me. You always hear and see things on TV, but I think until you can go there in person and witness that and see all the good that this money was doing for a lot of these kids and people who didn't have anywhere near the opportunities that we had, it really blew me away. And ever since I turned pro, I've tried to make a lot of efforts towards helping people out, as I chase my dream too. So I think that trip in particular really shaped me. But yeah, the whole program and everything involved in it is just all class and just a terrific program for a great cause. So I'm proud to be an alumni of it.
Definitely, and I'll pass you off to the other guys. I know they've got some questions, but that's just one of those things that we talk about every week on the show, and we've had a lot of former student athletes and people from the university on, and every time it's we always focus on what they do to give back. And are there any organizations that you're working with now that anybody listening should go check out and try to give a helping hand to that you're working with?
Sure. Actually, I actually had the first professional fight ever at Notre Dame the night before the Michigan State game, and we had another huge crowd, and I was the main event, and that was another event that was a nice little comeback fight for me, and it was a really incredible event, and I donated all the proceeds to two foundations in particular. that are linked with Notre Dame. The first is the Robinson Community Learning Center that's right in South Bend, and a lot of students and a lot of student athletes are involved in that program that helps kids, basically with tutoring, with getting into, good colleges, and just helping, basically mentoring kids in the South Bend, Mishawaka area. So that was really cool to be a part of. And the other one was the Ara Parseghian Medical Research Foundation. And that's a foundation started. Unfortunately, Ara's legendary coach in Notre Dame and 3 of his grandchildren died of Niemann-Pick type C disease, which is a relatively rare disease, and good in that it's rare, but also bad in that there hasn't been enough research and money donated to it. So his family has done a great job, and so another thing that I was very proud to be a part of. I encourage people to check out those 2 foundations, and I personally know that they've done great work and will continue to do great work, and they have a very tight bond with the Notre Dame family. So it was all right up my alley.
Excellent, and definitely 2 great causes. Being here locally, I'm definitely familiar with them, and definitely good work on that. On that note, I'm going to pass you off to Tim and Steve. I appreciate your time, Mike, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Sounds good.
Hey, Mike, Steve Herring here. I'm going to start off by making sure that I plug. You have this awesome YouTube video out that I think your promoter put out. Great stuff with some great clips of you boxing and some voiceovers of you talking about fighting, and you're rocking the Notre Dame gear proud. So I want to say everyone out there, you get a chance, check out Mike Lee's video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks.
No, it's really great, and I'm going to put it on the YouTube version of this show. Speaking of video, I'm going to get a little cliche boxing on you. Okay. Some famous big-time boxing flicks, Rocky, Raging Bull, and recently The Fighter. Do you have a favorite boxing flick?
Oh, that's a great question. I like The Fighter. I really did. A lot of people always ask me about Rocky, and I don't think there's too much, I guess, reality, for lack of a better word, that goes into that. But I thought The Fighter was done pretty well. I was impressed with Wahlberg's performance, and they actually used a couple pros as his opponents. So the fact that they went to they basically made the fighting pretty realistic, I guess, meant a lot to me. I guess The Fighter would have to be my favorite movie. I don't know, I guess I was thrown off guard. I've never been asked what my favorite boxing movie was, so
I totally thought that would be a cliche question. I can't believe that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So maybe The Fighter. Obviously Rocky has a special place in my heart, but I was a big fan of The Fighter.
Yeah, I totally understand that, because if you've seen Rocky or seen Raging Bull and you watch it in 2010 or 2012, I mean, the cinematography was good then, but as far as the fight scenes, The Fighter is definitely higher up on that list. It's much more realistic looking. I would agree with you there.
Yeah, it is.
A question relating to your video, you have some of your training stuff, you're using the kettlebells, you're working the bags. Is there any, I guess I was going to ask, is there any scenes in a fighting movie that, or from your own personal training, that kind of relate?
What do you mean by that?
Well, the Rocky that was famous when he's fighting the carcasses in the freezer, and then you got the famous training scenes in Boston with Mark Wahlberg and The Fighter. Is there anything that you've seen that you've used in your own training, or something like that? Yeah.
There you go. Case in point, I haven't really chased around any chickens, or my strength coach doesn't really have us climbing frozen mountains in snow boots. So yeah, I guess in that sense, I haven't done anything in Rocky, but I know The Fighter had a lot of mitt work and stuff like that. I think the thing too about those movies is a lot of those movies had the old school training techniques, and nowadays, not just boxing but all sports have evolved. So I think I'm with a great camp down here that's really good with nutrition and different training techniques, because the smarter we get, we gotta adapt. And so we do a lot of new different things to try to increase speed or explosiveness. So it's no longer, do 10 miles on the road and then, lift some weights and that's it. It's really, I think we're getting more, scientific with it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I hope this never happens, and I think the loyal Notre Dame listeners are kind of feeling the same way the Klitschko family would feel if their brothers went in the ring. But, what would you say if you were going to have the shot to fight up with Tommy Zbikowski?
Oh, I get that question a lot, too. That's funny. I mean, I've trained with Tommy, too. I think if something like that would happen, I'd have to put on some weight, and he'd probably have to lose some weight. But, yeah, Tommy's been a friend of mine and great football player, obviously, and a great fighter, and he was signed by Top Rank, too. So I'd like to see him back in the ring. I know right now he's just focusing on football, and I haven't talked to him too recently, but, I know that the Ravens did well in the playoffs and what have you. So, I'm not even sure if he's in the gym, but or if he has any ideas of boxing after the NFL. But yeah, I've always been a fan of his too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know that fans of Notre Dame and the football team just love Zbikowski, and he has some great players, and he had a chance to fight this offseason. So that was fun for us. But we hope that you two never have to go toe to toe. It would be a little too much for the faithful of the Fighting Irish. Basic question in boxing right now. It's Pacquiao Mayweather. Do you think it's been a good thing that they refuse to fight? Is it a fight you want to see? Who do you think is going to? Who would you guess would win if they fight before they're 50?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. When they fight, how old are they going to be? I'm not sure. I think that there's too much money on the table personally, and from what I hear, obviously I'm around a lot of people around both of them and what have you. From what I hear, they want to fight, and right now they both have 2 different dates. So I think they're both going to fight Floyd in May, and then Manny will fight in June. And I just hope the only issue is Floyd has to go to jail for 90 days after that fight. So hopefully sometime after that they can link up. But from what I've seen and what I think, like I said, there's just too much money on the table. I think when you get 2 guys who quite possibly could get up to close to $50 million each to fight each other, I think all the other obstacles will get pushed away, so to speak. But I don't know. I think that
happens the next year. Who you got?
Well, I hate to say it, but I got Floyd Mayweather in that one. And Pacquiao is another top-ranked fighter too, and obviously I guess that's why they fight. But I just think right now Floyd is probably the best fighter in the world. I've just seen him do things in the ring that I haven't seen other guys do. And the incredible thing about Floyd is that he dictates the pace, and what that means basically is he slows it down to his pace. And like I was saying earlier about the counterpunching, it's just it's really tough to deal with a guy like that. So I know a lot of people don't like Floyd, but in the ring he's just he's the real deal, that's for sure. So I'd give, if I'd put money down, I'd put it on him, but I don't know. That's why they fight. So. Yeah,
that's always why they fight. That's why they play the games, and you're totally right about that. Let's hope we see it in the next year.
I hope so.
Last question. I'm going to be like kind of another softball. You fought in Madison Square Garden. You fought at Cowboy Stadium. You fought in a couple of the Vegas locations. Where have you not fought that you're dying to get a chance to go?
So,
where have you not fought yet?
Where I've not, well, they don't have fights here, but my dream one day would be to fight for a world title at Wrigley Field. And
ooh,
I don't know where this comes about or what, but just being a Chicago kid, and actually I'm a White Sox fan, but there's something about Wrigley, and I think, in 3-4 years, either defend my belt or fight for a world title in Wrigley Field and get 35,000 people there. To me, that I could die happy if that happened. And if I won, obviously. So,
yeah, if you're fighting at Wrigley Field, I am on the first plane. That would be absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
We have something to shoot for now. So thanks
Absolutely.
so much, Mike. I'm going to pass you on to Tim. It was great talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mike, it's Tim here. Thanks again for answering all our questions. I'll just make it real quick for you, just a couple. I actually got my start in radio working in mixed martial arts. Right now, obviously, it seems like MMA is getting more of a popularity on mainstream television with The Ultimate Fighter and with UFC getting this Fox deal than boxing, whereas it seems boxing's still pulling in more money than MMA. What are your thoughts on the compare and contrast? Because, a lot of people act like they're so similar, obviously, with boxing, but really, for someone like you and me who have been around a lot, there's a lot more difference than people expect.
Yeah, there really is. I almost consider them two different sports because I've fought MMA pros and the amateurs, and to be quite honest, their stand-up game, in my opinion, is not good. But having said that, if I got in the ring and tried to do jiu-jitsu or wrestle or do any of those techniques, those guys would take me out in a second with some of those arm bars or whatever they do. But so I really think in that mindset, it's two different sports. So, I always cringe when I hear people try to compare, if GSP would fight, Floyd Mayweather or something like that, because basically what would happen is the UFC fighter in a boxing ring would lose, 10 out of 10 times, and the boxer would lose in the cage. So, that's how I feel about that.
I think James Toney proved your point on that second one pretty easily.
Yeah. Sure.
Actually, you bring up George St. Pierre, and that really brings up a good point because, obviously everyone in the MMA game will say him or, Anderson Silva. Those are the top two guys, hands down. What are your thoughts on his – because I know he does a lot of boxing training, actually, and his boxing trainer is actually Freddie Roach. What are your thoughts on George going to Freddie Roach? Is that a great move? Is that a guy that makes him dangerous in the cage fighting other guys?
Yeah, it does. I didn't know GSP was going to Freddie. I knew I'm not too familiar with him because I don't watch the sport that much. Who I am familiar with is Anderson Silva, actually. And I was just going to say, of all the UFC MMA fighters I've seen, I've been very impressed with Anderson Silva's stand-up game. And I've seen him spar and, spar other boxing pros, actually at Wild Card. And, because I spent some time out in L.A. and training and what have you. So, and I'd always been impressed with Anderson and how good of a fighter he was. And so, in terms of GSP, I think it's great getting with Freddie. I think a lot of these guys should get with boxing coaches and guys who are really specific on their stand-up game. And obviously Freddie Roach is one of the best trainers in the world. And so, yeah, I'd say for him it's a smart move, but obviously I don't know too much about his style or his game plan or anything.
Absolutely. I think that was a great move for him. I know I'm a big GSP fan, but I still have a lot of love for the sport of boxing. My last question before we let you off the air here, one big thing that boxing still has going for him is the EA Sports Fight Night franchise. Can we look forward to a scan of Mike Lee being in the EA Sports Fight Night game anytime soon?
Who knows? Right now I'm almost 2 years in being a pro, so I'm early in my pro career, and I'm 8-0, so we're hoping to have a big year coming up, and I think these next 2 years are going to be really big for me. I'm going to have, some televised fights and moving up in class and moving up in these rounds, so definitely, I think in the next few years, expect a lot of big things like that, and really all I'm concerned about right now is just getting better every fight and just keep winning, keep beating these guys they put in front of me. So I think if I do that, then we'll see. Let the chips fall in May, so to speak. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. It'd be a lot of fun to play myself on that game one day, and I think hopefully that'll be in the pretty near future.
Well, Mike, we got to thank you, man, for giving us 30 minutes of your time to answer all of our questions. Before we let you go here, we'll give you a chance to shout out to all your any sponsors you have or any way we can get in contact with you. Shout out your website, your Facebook, your Twitter. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically you can go to MikeLeeBoxing.com, and it's a terrific site that basically we have a lot of photos and videos and what have you, and I think a lot of people as well are going on the Facebook fan page I think that's a great way to see what I'm doing, and that's just Mike Lee Boxer, and that is also my Twitter account. So, I'm just usually tweeting about the workouts and, people I'm meeting through this whole process, and so people go to check that out. That'd be greatly appreciated.
Great. Well, Mike, again, thanks again for joining us. It was a great time having you. If you have a fight or anything, let us know. We'll get you posted. We'll get you back on the show anytime you want to be back.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, Mike.
Good night.
Well, fellas, we ran a little over with Mike, so we are on the podcast special version of the New Indian Nation Radio right now. But I must say, for the three of us, we had a great interview there. Mike was a great talk. It was my first time really talking with a boxer in a long time, so it was really neat to get to talk, and I really enjoyed everybody's aspects of the interview.
Yeah, no, definitely. Two great guests on tonight, and Oscar McBride and of course Mike Lee just now. So, it's just the hits never stop coming, so to speak. Being in the boxing team, and it's great for me to be able to talk to him, and having watched some of his fights. Like I said to him, I'm a huge fan of boxing. I always have been. Grew up on it, so it's great to get some insight from an 8-0 guy who is. He's kind of the prototypical boxer of what I like in a boxer, so it's fun for me.
I cannot believe no one's ever asked him what his favorite boxing movie was. That absolutely floored me. But, he was a great interview, and it's just every time we have somebody on, it blows me away, how excited they are about what they're doing and the charities they work with. And, you don't get this kind of access when you're just watching Notre Dame football or basketball once a week on ESPN or NBC. You're hearing about all these great stories and causes and the things that Notre Dame athletes are involved in. So, just what a great show.
It was a great time, guys. I got to thank you, as always, for being my great co-host. We had a lot of technical difficulties to deal with tonight, but we got through them. So everybody, tuning in, thank you, as always, for tuning in, whether it was our live broadcast, you're going to go check us out on YouTube, or you're downloading us on iTunes. Thank you so much for joining the New Indian Nation Radio. Come back every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're here. We have a lot of great things to talk about. Next week, Nicholas Sparks, the author, Notre Dame alum. I know a lot of dudes are saying, oh, my God, really, they're going to have this guy on. But trust me, it's a great interview. It's a guy that's going to talk about all his great stories, his great times at Notre Dame. So this is going to be a good show. We're going to keep getting better and better every week.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Check us out on it. If you're, if you're not listening now, you hear about it. We'll, check out. We post it on Twitter. We got this. You can listen to our show on blogtalkradio.com. Just type in TNNDN Radio in the search bar. Will come up. All of our episodes are archived. We've got the YouTube channel, TNNDN. Just type that in the search bar and YouTube, and we'll come up. And then again, now we're on a podcast. So if you're a iPad, iPhone, that user like I am, just go ahead and go into iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, get your listen on, man. We're doing it for you guys. It's an honor for us, but in the long run, it benefits the fans and family of Notre Dame. So tune in.
Yeah, we're going to promise you here, us at the New Indian Nation will not pull your man card if you read a Nicholas Sparks book or watch one of his movies this week. You're totally in the clear. It's a great excuse. Whip out the Notebook or Dear John or one of the other ones. So you're in the clear on that one. But, yeah, I'm excited to talk to Nicholas. And check us out. We got a lot of places to go to check out New Indian Nation Radio.
For sure. Well, everybody, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. And if you're just joining us for the first time, we're here at the New Indian Nation Radio. We end the show one way and one way only. Guys?
Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Go Irish.